Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. On today's show, I sit down with Vincent and Pete LaRussa, and we talk through our top 10 concerts that we've gone to in our lifetime. Now, I have to say, putting these lists together was not an easy task, as between the three of us, we've attended well over 600 concerts over the years. But when we put this list together, we decided that pretty much any criteria would go. That is, if we thought a performance was great, perhaps a set list at a particular show was really cool, or maybe it was just the overall ambiance or vibe of a particular show made it really special to us. Using all of that criteria, here is each of our top 10 concert lists. I think some of these selections are going to surprise you, and we look forward to your feedback. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. Today I'm really excited to have two guests with me. First off, my longtime friend's been on a number of the different shows with us. Vincent LaRussa, how you doing, Vin?
Doing good.
Excellent. And also with me today is his brother, Pete LaRussa, I Am Vinyl podcaster himself. How you doing, Pete?
Doing good, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Thanks you guys for coming. So I'm pretty excited. First off, before we start, for anybody watching this, I think the two of you guys have recorded a song for one of the podcasts that are out there, right? So let's just mention that while we have the two of you guys on the screen together here, right? What song was that you guys recorded?
We did the theme song for the Torpedo Dudes podcast by Chris Sinzak and Aaron Camaro.
Yep. So there you have it. Those are the two guys right over there. When you hear that song, it's these two guys right over here. So, but anyway, the purpose of today is to kind of go through our top 10 concert list. And, before we recorded today, we were talking about how many concerts we've been through over the years. I think I'm up around 250, maybe 300, something like that. Pete, Vin, Pete, I know you've been to a ton of concerts yourself, right?
That's true.
About how many?
It's tough to put an accurate number, but I would probably say at least in the few hundreds.
Yep. And Vin, I know you're not as much of a concert whore as the two of us, although your number's large enough. You're what, about around 100 or so?
No, I'm just a whore.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah, I'm about 100.
Right.
I could be forgetting some, but if I've forgotten them at this point, they're probably not memorable, so they wouldn't be going to this list here.
Yep, absolutely. So, all right, why don't we just start jumping right in over here, Vin? So why don't you go first? Let's go through your top 10 concerts over the years, and we'll chime in. Pete and I will talk about some comments about the band, or if we were at the concert also, we'll give some feedback. Why don't you jump in first here, bud?
All right. So am I going from 10 to 1?
Go from 10 to 1. Yeah, go from
1.
10 to 1. We don't want to give away the number one prize so quickly.
Okay. Coming in at number 10. I'm doing the official. Whatever they would do at some sort of award ceremony. This was tough, my number 10 slot, but I had to put the Bruce Kulick Band at last year's Kiss Cruise. The second day, I believe, where they did a lot of the songs from Carnival of Souls. Never hearing those songs performed live by Kiss, obviously. They've obviously panned that album for many years. I know it's one of those records that fans either love or hate. I'm one of those fans who really loves that album because it doesn't sound like a Kiss album. I don't care what Paul Stanley says. But yeah, so hearing a lot of those songs, I think they opened up with Unholy that day, or that night, I should say. And you were at that. We were at that together. Was that where they also did? They did Who Wants to Be Lonely, which was cool. Yeah. One of my favorite songs.
Yep.
And I think. Did they do the Animalized block, or was that the Asylum block? Yeah.
Yep.
So just hearing all those songs, I remember saying to you, I never thought like hearing Burn Bitch Burn live,
Absolutely,
I would ever be excited about hearing it. But for some reason, it translated really well. Maybe it's because I'm so used to hearing all those other Kiss songs. To hear something that's maybe not a favorite of mine, just hearing something that's different. Well,
yeah. No, I thought it was a great show. Also, obviously, you and I were watching that together. I loved when Bruce also did I Walk Alone at that show.
Right.
To me, that was that was absolutely great. But Vin, you didn't mention the highlight of the show.
Which was what?
The Bruce dance.
That's right. Yeah.
He was definitely thoroughly during that show.
Yeah, so just to explain what that was, there would be times when Todd Kearns would be talking to the audience, maybe in between or introducing the band, and and then Bruce would just stop playing and just be doing this little shimmy dance, and you could just see how much fun he was having. It was classic. So
absolutely.
So that's my yeah.
No, it's a good show. I didn't, I don't have any Bruce shows on my list, but they were certainly under consideration. It's a good place to start.
Well, I will fully admit that my list is kind of Kiss heavy. If people have seen me and us talk, they'll know that we're a huge Kiss fan. So,
yep.
And I've seen a lot of different artists, from blues to funk and stuff like that. But Kiss is just such an important part of my life that there are so many dates that I've gone to that were just like, I guess, landmark dates or concerts. So. That being said, I'll go to my number 9, which is the David Lee Roth Cinderella show at Madison Square Garden in 1986, and I believe we were at that show together.
Yep.
And I just remember all the hype of Dave, leaving Van Halen. I believe we already had the record at that time.
Yep.
Now you got to remind me of this. Did had we seen Cinderella yet at that point, or that was the first time we saw Cinderella?
No, I think we had seen Cinderella open up for Bond. When was that? The Dave Lee Roth was 86?
Actually, I could tell you that. Yes, that was after. Right. So that was the second time, but we had already been into Cinderella. They were a new band. We already had the record. So it was really a good bill. And I just remember really being... And, these are one of these things where it's just... these are some of my early concerts that I remember. And part of why these I chose a lot of these concerts is more of the event of being with you, and I don't know if Sal went to that, our buddy Sal, or all right, calm down. But
you should just make a list top 10 concerts I've been to with Mike.
That's a whole other podcast. Yeah, that should get 3 views. So that's my number 9.
Hold on. Before you go to 8, Pete, have you ever seen David Lee Roth, either solo or with Van Halen?
No, I've never had an opportunity to see either live.
Okay, yeah. So, Vin, I agree with you. I think that, that was a great show. It's kind of a little bit sad sometimes to see David Lee Roth the way he is right now. He's opening for Kiss this year, so I'll catch that a couple of times. But, that 86 show was I remember all the lights. It was really colorful also, the whole stage. It was a cool show.
Is that the one that came out with the microphone too at the end?
I think so. Yeah,
hopping
if I remember right. Yep.
Big inflatable mic.
Yep, absolutely. All right.
Okay.
Number 8. Yeah,
all right. Number 8 is Kiss at Madison Square Garden, 1996, the reunion tour. Now,
that one was made good. Okay.
Yeah. So looking at this, you would think this would be further up on the list, but. This was obviously, well, not obvious, but I had never seen Kiss in full makeup with the full original band. So seeing them for the first time, all the original members, I remember being, very excited for this gig, and and finally thinking like I finally get to see them, the original lineup, because I had a lot of regrets not seeing them when I was younger. So. I don't know, Pete. You were at one of those shows. I don't know if we were at the show together, but were we at that one together?
No, that's we were talking about this over the course of the last few weeks. I don't recall us going to the reunion tour together. I recall us going to one of the Psycho Circus tour shows.
Yeah, Pete. I think you and I went to a reunion show together at the Garden, if I remember right.
I definitely did get a ticket from you. So I was telling my brothers, like, I didn't remember if I attended with you or if it was another ticket and we had different seats. But yeah, we definitely did go to one of those shows.
Yeah, I think we went together because I had tickets for all 4 of those nights, and I think I went with 4 different people. I think I went with my wife, the both of you, and my brother. I think so. That's the 4 people I think I went to. Because I had a pair of tickets for each night. So I'm pretty sure, Pete, you and I went together to one of those.
Okay.
Which would probably explain why me and my brother didn't go together.
Exactly.
Because I probably got the tickets through you.
I just remember I was there that entire run. So.
Yeah. Oh, you went all 4 nights also, Pete?
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Cool. All right. Yeah.
Okay. Next.
Go ahead, Vincent.
All right. My next one. I know you were at this one, buddy. Coming in at number 7, Great White, Badlands, and Tesla. at the Reebok Center Stage.
I think I got my audio tape of it right over here,
Oh,
actually.
really?
Yeah, all three bands.
Yeah. So I was a really big Great White fan. I was probably one of three in the '80s.
And
But
plenty of posters to prove it down in the basement.
yeah, I had a lot of yeah. It was one of those things where and Mike knows I would just go to record stores, and if I liked an album cover, I would just buy the record.
Yep.
And I bought the Once Bitten record, and was thoroughly surprised on how much I really liked them. And then after that, I think I bought was it Face the Day? Was that the name of the record?
Yep.
Or something like that.
I think that was the name of the
I know it's the
album.
one with
the lightning on
lightning.
it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was. I think, for some reason, I think it's probably some people are booing me right now because they're like, no, that's not it. But anyways,
Well, since there was only three fans, you don't have to worry
yeah,
about it.
exactly. Now, no disrespect to Great White. No, they were a great band. They definitely had a good following and whatnot. And also, the first Badlands album had come out. It was great. It's still a great album. And Tesla, a great band. I mean, that's a 1, 2, 3 punch. And I remember at one point before the gig, we were off to the side. I don't remember how it was situated. And there was a fence there, and I saw Troy Luccketta was talking to fans
That's
or
right.
whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. I forgot about that.
So yeah, my memory isn't that bad, and probably because he's a drummer, I remembered that. And it was just a great show. I mean, if I would have seen one of those bands, it would have been great at that time. But I guess that's why it carries a lot of weight with me because I loved all three bands at the time. And it's something, unless you're going now to see Motley Crue, Def Leppard, and what's the one I'm forgetting? Poison. Back then we probably paid $14, $15 for that ticket or whatever.
Exactly.
It was,
Yep, exactly.
So,
Yeah, and
So-
if I remember right, it was an outdoor show and it was a beautiful day outside
Yeah.
also.
yeah, it wasn't humid. It was just a really nice night, and it was a great show. So
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so this is going to be the next one's going to be a little bit controversial. This one.
Oh boy, okay.
And I'll explain why. This was a production that was on Broadway. It was called Let It Be. It was a Beatles. I guess I can't say it was a Broadway play or anything because basically what it was a Beatles tribute band doing all Beatles songs. No dialogue. They would have like little news clips in between. But for me, other than Kiss and the Beatles being my favorite band of all time, and obviously not being able to see all original four members. This was the closest thing. They came out for the era with the appropriate outfits. They had the right amps, the right guitars. They sounded impeccable. I would just remember being so overwhelmed on how well everything sounded. And I was thinking, like, this is going to be the closest I'll ever feel of actually seeing the real Beatles. And just hearing all those great songs, one after another, it just left such an impact on me. So was it a concert per se? I look at it that way because, like I said, it wasn't presented in like a Broadway production play kind of thing.
Okay.
So, for those who want to debate and fight me over it, I'm not giving you my address. Sorry.
There was no dialogue between the songs in terms of like stage performance or whatever. It was just songs. So it sounds like it was a concert.
Yeah.
Much.
What they would do is say like they did from like the early like the Ed Sullivan. They did one part where it was like the Ed Sullivan. If you ever saw the Ed Sullivan show from then. And had like I think these arrows and stuff like that in the background. So they reproduced that. So they would have like Ed Sullivan on the screen, and you would hear blah, 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 or another thing they would have like Walter Cronkite talking, and then the band would perform. The band themselves never said anything to the audience, not once.
Okay. Oh wow.
So it's kind of like what you would see in any kind of concert, whether you're going to see, I don't know. I can't think of anybody.
So there was no like Paul McCartney going, "People over there, let me hear you."
No. Yeah. No vodka and orange juice. No.
Pete, what do you think? Does this qualify as a concert?
I mean, it seems like it's like a concert experience. Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna let this one slide by. I think, buddy.
Oh boy.
Well, we'll put it to a vote out on the net once this gets up there. We'll see.
Well, hopefully some other people have seen it and they can comment too. And it was very short lived. I think it might have only went for 6 months. Before the blimp took off, but yeah, it was. I was kind of disappointed, but I was glad. I was fortunate to see it. So that's my number. It's my number 6.
Okay.
Number 5 is Paul Stanley and Warrant at L'Amour's on February 17th, 1989.
Warrant for your arrest.
Warrant for your arrest. Yes. So hopefully I'm not stealing a couple of these from you, buddy. But
that's quite all right if you are. Don't worry about it.
So in this particular show, obviously the anticipation of seeing Paul live solo for the first time. I remember us standing there for hours, waiting. We didn't know who Warrant was, so Warrant came out, and immediately it struck a chord with us, pun intended. The songs were really catchy. They were really good. And so much, I think the next day we went out and bought their record. And I just remember being so impressed, like they already had like custom guitars. I'm like, obviously the record company's putting money into this band. And it turned out they became huge. And then, of course, Paul coming out. And did he open up with I Stole Your Love?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
And I just remember, like, who's going to be playing with him? Who? We had no idea that it's not like in this day and age where, you got that a-hole Bob Kulick, talking about this and that,
Right.
It's, so it was a different time. And when the band came out, I remember looking at the bass player. I'm like, he kind of looks like, I know it's not Gene Simmons, but he kind of looks like him. And, and Paul came out with all that. I remember he had the body glove guitar with the little Steinbergers. And just hearing the impact of that. And then, of course, all the solo album material,
Absolutely.
Wouldn't You Like to Know Me? And Tonight You Belong to Me. The first time we heard that, we're just blown away. And you're seeing it in your hometown, basically in your neighborhood.
I think we were able to walk to the concert, right?
Yeah. It was great. So that was something that's like unforgettable for me. So
you know what? I'll be honest. So that made my short list when I was putting together my list of concerts. So I'll say it made my top 20.
Yeah.
I did not put it in my top 10. But I could have. Like I said, it's under the final consideration. Like you said, we got into Warrant that night, and I actually went to see Warrant open for Eddie Money like 2 months later or 3 months later because I thought Warrant was that good. But the Paul Stanley show was incredible. You didn't even mention Eric Singer was on the drums. That was his introduction to us, like being part of the Kiss camp, so to speak, which is interesting. Now that means at least 2 of your first 6, 7 shows that you've listed had Eric Singer on drums, because Eric Singer was in Badlands also when we saw him.
Yep.
Interesting. Very interesting.
And it may it may not end there as I'm looking at my list. So.
I had a feeling it may not. So I have a feeling I know where you're going to go at the top. No, I thought that was an absolute great show. Pete, did you ever get to see Paul? Probably not in '89, right? Probably 2006.
No, I was still too young at that point.
That's what I thought.
Shows, but I got to hear the bootlegs.
Right, absolutely. And you probably went to more shows at L'Amour's than Vinny and I combined anyway, so, right?
That's possible.
No, that was cool. That was a great show, Vin. Definitely was a lot of fun that night. And we were right up on top of the stage also, which was for us like one of the first times we'd ever been like that close for a full show. So that was, to me, really cool.
Yeah. Okay, so what am I at? Number 4. I'm going to the top 5. I'm on the top 5 here. So the number 4 concert, I know my brother's probably going to roll his eyes on this one.
I'm watching his reaction.
But this is the, and this isn't, again, I want to just be clarify on this. It's not, again, so much maybe performance. It's more of the occasion. But this is the Bon Jovi Cinderella concert at Nassau Coliseum. Those who know my brother, he's never been, even back in the heyday, he never liked Bon Jovi,
A few songs here.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be number 1 on your list, huh, Pete?
What's that?
That's not number 1 on your list, Bon Jovi?
Why not?
So this particular show, I think this was the first show that me, you, and Sal went to. Our first concert together. Yeah. Your dad drove us, I remember. This was part of the whole experience, is like us going as kids to our first show together. Obviously, Bon Jovi was already pretty big with the Slippery album. And not knowing, that's when we didn't know who Cinderella was. And being pleasantly surprised on how good Cinderella was. Just made that memory that much better, because Cinderella wound up becoming one of my favorite, hair metal bands. Even though by the time they got to their kind of second and third album, I don't really consider them, because they was more of a bluesy based. I think their second album, Lone Cold Winter, is awesome, and I really like their third album too. But for those reasons, hearing Bon Jovi, I remember you. Having the, your bootleg machine and hearing of the tapes, and And hearing Balby, friend Sal Balby, singing in the background, just like ruining every performance, you know.
Oh, that's classic.
And actually, the one, I think, was that the song, the show where they're doing the intro of Wanted Alive, and somebody steps on your foot, and all of a sudden you die. You can clearly hear it on the tape.
That's right. I think you must have played that part of the tape for me 1,000 times when we were
classic.
teenagers.
Yeah.
It was like the whole like acoustic intro, Wanted Dead or Alive, and you hear the guitar like ding 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 ding. And you just rewind it and play it again, and rewind it and play it again.
Yeah. So that was a classic.
Yeah, but you know what? You're forgetting. You're leaving out an important part of that evening, right? I think it was the drive home. Didn't we get whiplash?
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Right? My dad's car got like hit from behind or something.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah, that wasn't your dad's fault as far as I remember. But yeah, I just remember we're like all excited. We're in the car like, yay! That's like,
the thing I remember about that concert also is that was the first time I believe we ever I'll say camped outside for tickets for a show. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Where did we do that? Was that by 86th Street and Fifth Avenue, or?
I think it was up by 20th Avenue for some reason. It might have been Fifth Avenue. I don't know.
There was the Ticketron at the little record store. That's why I was thinking there, but I don't know up on 20th Avenue where there was.
Yeah. So you're probably right. My memory's probably off, but I do know that we kind of camped outside. We got there really early. It was cold out then. It was
I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, it was like December, January. I remember I was all excited because I brought a radio boombox, whatever, with me, and I was playing the song "Edge of a Broken Heart," which wasn't on "Slippery When Wet." And some of the other fans, they were like, "Ooh, what the hell's that? What the hell's that?" And there was a song called "Borderline" also that I was playing, and the fans were going like, "What is that?" That was, people were going like crazy over that. But if you remember this, Vin, the tickets sold out before we were able to buy them that day.
I don't remember this at all.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So we actually had to buy scalped tickets for that concert, which I want to say we paid like $60. Pete's like, oh my God, not only did they go, they scalped tickets for this.
Well, I remember being at the time,
Pete's like, I'm out of here. That's it. I'm off.
Yeah. I do remember at the time.
What was that, Pete?
So it's your money.
What were you going to say, Vin?
I do remember at the time working at Wallbaum's and being on the payphone because there was no cell phones in the Stone Age, and I remember being on the phone with you and being like, $60. I can't pay $60. I'm making like $5 a week. How am I going to pay $60? And somehow I think it was the pressure of like you were going and Sal was. I was like, all right, I'll just do it. And the ironic thing, up until that point, I think I had seen Bon Jovi more times than I had saw Kiss. I mean, after that, soon thereafter, I remember one point saying, like, I've seen Bon Jovi 3 times, and I saw Kiss once. How does this even make any sense,
That's so funny, yeah.
So that's, what am I at, number 4? Okay, so now number 3. Coming in at number 3. So number 3 is Kiss at the Ritz on August 12th, 1988. I'm talking about waiting. We didn't wait online for the tickets, but we waited all day. We lined up. We might have been maybe 20 in or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just remember being online. I think it was you and I and Sal and Figalski, Kenny, and I don't remember, my cousin Mike, a.k.a. Beagle. Give Beagle a shout out. And at one point, I just remember a car pulling up, and Gene Simmons came out of like a limousine, and he was wearing an all-white suit or something like that. And we couldn't get close to him at that point because we were kind of on the line, and if we would have done that, it would have just been like, But I just remember, I think he went in, he went out, and then finally when it came, I don't know what time the show was supposed to start, but let's just figure it was supposed to start. There was no opening. Was there an opening band?
Yeah, I think it was Dirty Looks, if I remember right.
Oh, Dirty Looks? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think maybe they were supposed to start at 11, which is typical, or 10, I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
When we finally got in there, I'm like, I hope they're going to put the air conditioning on at this place because it's are they trying to melt people in here? Anyway, it was the hottest, I think, room I had ever been in. And by the time Kiss hit the stage, I think we were all kind of like, we were like literally, I think, a row before the stage. And we were on the side that back then Gene Simmons was on that side.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the stage, that would have been the right hand side. I just remember thinking like, we're going to be this close, but I'm going to die before the show even starts because I'm ready to pass out. We were drenched in sweat. There were people who actually had fallen to the ground because the heat exhaustion. Finally, Kiss comes out, which seemed like an eternity. Now you got to remember, say we got there at 11 o'clock in the morning. It's now 11 o'clock at night, so we've been on our feet for basically 12 hours, and add another 6 hours of heat exhaustion. Just if you look at it that way.
The temperature, yep.
And all of a sudden they come out with Deuce, and I just never forget that feeling of hearing that. I've never been this close to any. I don't think any band at that time. And seeing Gene, and just the sound was awesome. But by I think the third song, we all just couldn't take the pressure, and I just felt like so claustrophobic, like I was just going to pass out, and I just couldn't take. My anxiety was like at such a height that we went back of the where everyone was, and at that point, I was so like drenched in sweat that I went and bought like an Asylum shirt, or they were selling like leftover shirts from previous tours.
I don't even remember that. Wow,
yeah,
okay.
So I wound up buying a shirt, and none of us were able to stay there. All just. I mean, I could say, hey, I was the wimp, but like, and patience.
I was
man.
also.
Yeah, so it was just.
And not only like you said, we started off on the Gene side, but like halfway through Deuce, the crowd was pushing. We were like all the way over on the other side of the stage. We kept kind of going back and forth.
That was
it was complete mayhem.
And that's what made it worse too, because you felt like we could get hurt, and it just wasn't worth it at that point. So there's the regret of not being able to enjoy that entire show, because everything feels like a blur afterwards, in a ways, because we were so distracted by that. But it's still just one of those great experiences of seeing them at a smaller venue, the entire band at that time. So that was just great.
Absolutely. Agreed.
I was actually at home recording it off of WNEW onto two stereos. His Sharp boombox and his stereo system. So we had two different copies to make sure that it was all good.
Yeah, I still have that tape.
I still have one of those tapes.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, one of these days I'll have to compare my recording to your guys, because I had recorded on the radio also, and mine starts with them talking about how hot it is and all of that. So I'm curious if your recording started earlier. I'd love then to get a copy of it just to kind of hear some of the other radio banter that was going on beforehand.
Yeah, I know I started it probably a few minutes, like 5 minutes before the show.
Right, okay.
Stuff is definitely on there.
Yeah, no, mine's only about maybe 45 seconds, a minute before the show begins. So, maybe one day, I'll kind of get a copy of that. I just love to kind of hear what they're talking about, because then I agree. That was a great memory that day. Do you remember us going over to one of the record stores during the afternoon and buying those foil posters from the 70s? I wonder, how the hell did we keep them with us in that crowd like that? I don't even remember.
I do remember stop at the store. I don't know. I think you might have bought stuff, but maybe I didn't, because I don't remember holding on to that stuff, or otherwise it would have been crushed. I don't know. I remember you getting excited about the foil posters.
Yeah.
I only had my original foil poster from, I think 77 that was always hanging on my basement wall. I never had any others, but I remember you being thoroughly thrilled that, they had, done those posters.
Yeah, and those foil posters would have been destroyed. So I'm wondering if I bought them and then picked them up the next day at the store. I don't remember.
You may have done that, because it just does not make sense that you would have been holding the poster like this.
Exactly.
There's no way it would have been able to survive.
To that show.
What was that, Pete?
So you probably wouldn't have had those posters left with you if you carried them.
Exactly.
Yeah, they would have
That's
been
what I'm thinking. So I must have picked them up the next day. But you remember going shopping that day, Vin,
Oh
right?
yeah. It was nice, because I think we said, you guys hang out here, keep our spot. So we were able to have a little bit of a break, so.
Right. Yep. But you're right, Pete. Those would have been destroyed, especially those foil posters were so, I'll say, sensitive to begin with, so there's no way that we had them inside with us that night. No way.
Just with that heat, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Maybe disintegrate.
Yeah. It's true.
Great point. All right, Vin, your top two.
All right, number two is, surprise, Kiss with the Blue Oyster Cult at the Brendan Byrne Arena. And on April 11th, 1986, the Asylum Tour.
Sad night for me. Sad
Yes.
night. This is, I think, the only show so far on your list, besides the Beatles thing, that I wasn't at with you.
Yeah. So this was my first show that I ever saw with Kiss. Actually, I think it was my second concert ever I had been to. My first concert, drum roll, was the Temptations at what's that place in Westbury Music Fair.
You just gave up your number one, I think.
Yeah, I did. That is something I think I saw with my parents or something with family. But anyway, so first time seeing Kiss, I went with my two good friend Rob Figalski and Robert Lyotta. Rob Lyotta, I was 16 years old. He was nice enough to take us both because it was in Jersey. We didn't have cars, so he had been reinvigorated and got into Kiss again. I got him back into Kiss, and I remember, first seeing Blue Oyster Cult, and I kind of knew a couple of their songs, but I wasn't a Blue Oyster Cult fan, but, just thinking they were really good that night, and, to the point where I think the next day I went out and bought their greatest hits or whatever, and so that was kind of cool. And then, of course, seeing Kiss for the first time, not great seats at all, but just finally being in an arena where I get to see, my all-time favorite band, and it's probably a good thing I wasn't up close, so I didn't have to see Gene with that horrible, drag makeup that he was wearing all of them, really. So I probably benefited from them, not being that close. But just remember just being so excited to finally getting to see, after all those years, the band had been around for 12 years at that point, and finally being able to see, my favorite band, and so it was just a great night. So can't tell you the set list, I could give you probably some highlights, but again, they were promoting.
And that was the night that the remaining trio went to get Blitz.
That's right. You, Balby, and was it?
I don't even remember who. Oh, one of his friends.
Yeah, Louis. Louis.
Yeah, I think that's the only local Kiss concert I missed, like from '79 to today. I don't know why I didn't go to that one.
Yeah, it's always been a mystery because, we were all friends at that point, and we were friends with Figalski, and you knew who Lyotta was and stuff like that. I think we had played ball a couple times. So, yeah, I don't know. I have to believe, again, probably Lyotta got the tickets, but why get 3 when you get 4, Why get 3 when you can get 6? But it just worked out that way for whatever reason.
That was when? That was April of '87, was that show? Or April of '86?
86.
86, right. April of '86, right. So the only thing I could think of is I had just seen Kiss at the Garden in December of '85.
Yeah.
And I probably, like you said before, you were working in Walgreens?
Wallbounds and close.
Wallbounds.
Yeah.
And I was working in the Tolan store. And I think I
didn't get permission from Diane.
That's right. I couldn't get permission from Diane. I also was making, I think, $3.50 an hour. So
$3.35.
$3.35.
$3.35.
The three of us worked there.
No.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I probably couldn't afford to. I just purchased a ticket from the December show. I probably couldn't afford to go again a few months later.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. But all righty, I know what your number one show is going to be because I was with you at this one. I'm not. There's no shocker here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So this was a big deal for me because I would never do anything like this, but being it's Kiss's last tour, or what do they call it, the end of the road, I decided that I was going to pay a decent amount of money and go see them at Madison Square Garden for their, I think it was, March 27th of last year. I was fortunate, courtesy of you, I was able to get a pre-sale code. I was stunned that I remember I could get first row center or I could get second row center. I'm like, how is this even possible? And I think first row center was, with the fees and everything, it was going to be $1,100.
Yep.
And second row center with the fees and everything was like 8 something. So I'm thinking, all right, I could stand here or I could stand a foot further and it's going to be like $300 more. And so I said, you know what? I'll save the couple bucks and I'll get, second row center. And just, and what also was unusual is that I stood there by myself. And I'm not one, if people know me, I'm not one to go, I'll never go to a movie theater by myself. I don't even like to go out to eat by myself. I always like to do things with people. But I knew nobody next to me.
Do you go to the bathroom by yourself?
I have an aide. For that. But I just remember, we did meet up before the show, and we get to hang out. But then I kind of went my own way, and just standing on that floor for the first time, I'd never done that. Rangers are my favorite hockey team, and just thinking like all the history of this arena, and once rock and roll kicks in, I was just getting like chills, and I'm just standing there, and I'm literally looking up like this because the curtain's like right there, And if anyone's gone to see Kiss, they know once rock and roll kicks in, the festivities are about to begin. And after rock and roll ends, you hear that synthesizer, like, the infamous, note that every band uses. And the announcement, the curtain comes down, and if anybody's seen at the end of the road tour, they got those pods that come from the ceiling. And I had been prepared for that a little bit better because we had gone to see them, I think, the week before at Mohegan Sun, and we had the same thing, second row center. And but this time I knew exactly where Paul was going to come down, and so I was kind of focused, and it felt like Paul was like 4 feet away from me at that point, even though it was with the fireworks and everything, and being that close, and just finally being able to get that experience. Maybe not the original band, but a lot of it has to do with the arena, hometown, the Garden, and so that's what lands in my top spot.
Yeah, look, I knew that was going to be a number one show because you talk about that still on a regular basis. And like you said, I think it was just being at Madison Square Garden because we were there at Mohegan Sun a week beforehand, like you said, and that didn't even crack your top 10. So I think it was just the whole being at the Garden, the history of the place. I knew that was going to be your number one show. No surprise there for me. Yeah. So how many Kiss shows did you have altogether in your top 10?
I'm going to look right now. 1, 2, 3, 4.
4. All right, so it'll be interesting to see. You have 4. I'm a little Kiss heavy on some of mine also, and I'm sure, Pete, you're going to have a few Kiss shows on yours as well.
And just so you know, I left out 10. So I've seen them another 10 times. So, and actually, I have marked off here, but it looks like I didn't add it in the 10. I had the Kiss and at the Kiss Cruise and the indoor show, but I guess I kind of left it out after I reevaluated. But I'm not going to get into that. But now, would you like to know the show that I was most disappointed at?
Yes. I was just going to ask you, what was the worst show you were ever at?
Well, it wasn't so much of a bad performance. It was just being disappointed. This might surprise you guys both, but this was Rufus and Earth, Wind and Fire at Jones Beach. This was, I tried to trace it back. It looks like it was sometimes in 2001. I remember, I think I went with my friend Tom, and Rufus opened for them, and they sounded great. And Earth, Wind and Fire came out, and the sound was god awful. It was I just couldn't believe the difference between how good Rufus sounded. Obviously, they used another sound system, but it just took away from the whole show. And Earth, Wind and Fire, I'm a big R&B fan, and Earth, Wind and Fire is one of my favorite bands. Those might surprise people based on my previous list of top 10, but. The sound was so awful, it just took away from so it wasn't that they played awful, it was just being really excited to see, these two bands, mostly Earth, Wind and Fire, and just being really, sort of disappointed at the end of the night. So.
Interesting. Yeah. I did not even know you saw Earth, Wind and Fire, so there you go.
There you go. I threw in a little curveball.
There you go.
No.
Is that going to be in your top 10 also, that concert, Pete?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So let's segue over to Pete. So I think, Pete, your list is the one I'm most, I'll say, interested in. Not that I wasn't interested in Vinny's, so of course I was. But you're a few years
you live my life.
I lived out. To me, your list was cool because I kind of reminisced about the last 30 years of my life through your list.
Yeah.
But Pete's list is interesting. He's a few years younger, right, Vin, than you and I.
6.
So I think Pete, 6 years younger, right? 6 years younger. So you lived through a lot of the stuff in the 90s that maybe Vin and I were a little bit tuned out of to some degree. Sure. So I'll be definitely very interested, very, very intrigued to see what makes your top 10 list. So why don't you get it started, Pete?
All right. Well, it wasn't particularly easy to put it together, but based on ticket stubs and memory, this is what I have together. So my number 10 is Motorhead with Clutch opening at Best Buy Theater on February 28, 2011. And I was literally up in front for the entire show on Phil Campbell's side, so on the guitar player's side. But needless to say, it's everything you've heard about going to a Motorhead show. It's friggin' loud, and I walked out of there like half deaf. But considering let me pass a few years later,
Yep.
And that was the last time I'd ever seen them. Because previously I'd seen them open for Iron Maiden a bunch of times at Madison Square Garden and some other venues. But that was definitely the best that I'd ever seen them, and as far as the show experience and really getting the Motorhead show experience. And Doro Pesh even came up and guested on Killed by Death, which I just called now. Yeah, so a little Kiss connection there. So yeah, that's my number 10.
Yeah, so it's funny because you guys both know I'm not the hugest Motorhead fan. Some of their songs I like, but I almost went to see him about 3 months before he passed away at Jones Beach, and I was like, whatever, I'll go next tour. One day I'll see him. One day I'll see him. Like, god damn. So, oh well, what are you gonna do? So, all right, Motorhead's
looks like you
10.
took a gamble and you lost.
Well said, Vin. Well said. All right, Pete.
Okay, so my number 9, and I found this ticket stub, was Sepultura, Helmet, and Ministry at the Paramount Theater in Madison Square Garden. And that was on December 3rd, 1992. And a few of my friends and I, we were second row for that entire show. So, I mean, that in itself just made it even greater, was that the fact that we had such great seats. But those bands at the time, Sepultura was really getting bigger at the time, and Helmet was a more new up and coming band, even though they had a few records out. But they were just starting to build a bigger buzz. The Ministry had been around for a bunch of years in the industrial metal scene, so seeing that show experience and hearing them live for the first time, and that was another one. That show was just extremely loud and great for me being 16 years old at the time.
Right.
So, yeah, that's another hugely memorable one. So that's my number 9.
And
Go
go
ahead, Vin. No,
I was going to say, in both those bands, they probably never really, you know better than I, achieved the kind of success that maybe you thought they were. I'm not saying they weren't successful bands, but they didn't blow up as big as some of the other bands at the time did.
Yeah, Helmet was probably boosted up and hyped up to be a bigger band, but they never quite made it to the upper levels. But they definitely maintained a good following after their first few albums, and they're still around touring today, celebrating their 30th anniversary of
As a matter
one of their mid-90s records. So,
matter of fact, I think we have the tape of the show that when we were playing the cover band. Remember you with the person asked you, "What's your favorite band?" And you said Kiss, and you were wearing a Helmet shirt at that time. That was 95, I think. So
yeah, that's probably accurate. Yeah, I'd gone to a few Helmet shows by that point. I've seen them headline at Roseland Ballroom too.
Yeah.
This is why I'm so looking forward to your list, Pete, because I could honestly say those 3 bands, the amount of albums in my collection, 0.
Yeah.
0.
Yeah. And amount of songs I know about those 3 bands, 1.
1. But that's what I learned. That to me is what makes this so cool. Is that, like you said, you're 6 years younger, and I was very aware of that whole scene, but never really participated in any of that with those bands. So that's cool. Yeah. That's very cool.
So I'll move on now to my number 8, which is it's a package tour. It's Ozfest 1997. I went to Giant Stadium on June 15th, 1997, and this lineup, these are the more memorable bands of the lineup. Fear Factory, Type O Negative, Pantera, Marilyn Manson, and this was at his height of probably his popularity, likely at that point. And then Ozzy Osbourne solo, and then at the end of his set, the guys from Black Sabbath came up, but it was Mike Gordon from Faith No More on drums. But Tony Iommi and Geezer Butler came up and they played a few Black Sabbath songs. So and I was up at the front on Joe Holmes' side, on the right side for all of Ozzy's and Black Sabbath. We managed to get our way up front, so that's also made it extremely memorable. But that entire day, that entire package, and all those bands at that time and where they were in their popularity and fan base, just one of the best, absolutely one of the best shows.
And what'd that ticket cost?
I don't recall how much that was. One of our friends had an extra couple of tickets and sold them to me and my friend Mike. and I really don't remember how much they were. I'm gonna say somewhere in the neighborhood of $20-25 or
Thanks.
My point exactly.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. You know, it's funny that $25 and you got a whole day thing. I was looking into the Ozzy show at the Garden in June, and I think the tickets that were available like $150 and up, and I'm just like, I don't know if I can spend $150 to see Ozzy again, but
Yeah.
$25, damn.
yeah,
And $40 for parking.
Exactly.
You could at least buy a hose with that, you know.
Especially
And,
now, what you're gonna get too.
yeah.
Yeah. No, you ain't kidding. So, yeah. All right.
Okay, so my number 7 is another one that I found earlier. This is an interesting one that I think both of you will probably not be surprised to hear, I would say.
That's it.
It has some personal significance too, which I think you'll understand the reasoning.
Is this
But
Is this the Tony Braxton show?
Yes, the one of 15 that I went to. You're right. Thank you. So my number 7 actually turns out to be the very, very first show that I've ever attended. Arena, club, you know, something that wasn't just like some local around our area where we went.
Not somebody playing songs on their chest?
Right. So yeah, my arena show, and I have the ticket stub right here. I know you can't really see it, but it's Heart with the Black Crowes opening, and this was at Fiddler's Green Amphitheater, August 22nd, 1990, and this was in Colorado. I was staying at my cousin's house at the time, our cousin Joe, and my cousin had this knack for being able to win tickets off the local rock radio station, KBPI, very easily. They had some real good speed dial on one of the phones in the house. So it was a radio contest, and it was they play a clip from an interview, and you're supposed to guess who it is that's talking.
Okay.
So I picked up on a clue, something like Eagles related, and I told my cousin, I said, "Oh, it's Don Henley." I said, "Call up and say it's Don Henley."
Mm-hmm.
So he calls up, and we actually got this all on tape, and I still have it. It's
Oh, wow. Cool.
digitized it's up on my SoundCloud. And calls up, my cousin calls up, gets on the phone, he says, "Okay, who is it?" And my cousin says, "It's Don Henley." And the radio DJ's like, "Are you sure it's Don Henley?" And my cousin's like, "Yeah." "Well, you're absolutely right. We're going to Heart and Black Crowes." And we start going crazy, yelling and screaming. So we were first row for that show on the left side of the stage. And we were big fans of the Black Crowes debut record at the time, Shake Moneymaker.
Yeah.
So, we knew a few Heart songs. Like I knew a few Heart songs, especially from YouTube with the infamous comments when you guys would make watching the Friday night videos. So
That's good.
I was quite familiar. But we mainly wanted to go see the Black Crowes. But of course, we stuck around for Heart, and they were great, and they were great too. So that's my number 7.
Vin, have you ever seen Heart?
No, I haven't. No.
Me neither. I would actually say if I'm putting a list together of bands that I want to see before it's too late, I think Heart would be maybe number 1 or number 2 on that list. For whatever reason, every year they come, I'm like, I'm going to go. It's like another friggin' Motorhead. I don't want that to happen to me. So,
And one of my favorite musical clips, live clips, I didn't see it live, but people should check it out.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Is the I think it was the Kennedy Awards, whatever thing, and they did Stairway to Heaven.
Absolutely.
And Led Zeppelin was there. I mean,
Yeah.
even just thinking about it gives me chills. That just blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Just the performance and just seeing how moved Robert Plant was and all the band. It was just such an incredible, and Jason Bonham on the drums. Wow.
Yep.
Awesome.
No, I agree. Absolutely.
Great band. I mean, they still sound great.
Well, probably one of the best, if not the best, female singers to me in my mind.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yep.
Yeah, my recollection was they were great that their entire set.
Mm-hmm.
It was really good.
And you said Pete, that was 1990, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so they were probably still a little heavy on some of their 80s stuff as well during that time period, I would think.
The majority of the set I remember being very, very hits heavy.
Yep.
Especially the 80s stuff.
Right, makes sense.
They closed with Barracuda.
Okay, nice.
As they should.
Right, as they should, exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, Pete, what's next for you?
All right, my number 6. This is another really big one for a bunch of my friends and I. We went to this one. It's Iron Maiden at the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Nice.
This is when Bruce Dickinson and Adrian Smith returned to the band.
Mm-hmm.
So the show was July 17th, 1999. This was another one we managed to weasel our way towards the front.
Mm-hmm.
So my best recollection is, us being right up in the front, and Clutch actually opened this show too.
Okay.
And so we were right up front on the right side of the stage. So they come out opening with Aces High, and they have the whole introduction before Aces High starts.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as Aces High kicks in, with the Steve Harris is right in front of us with the fucking bass. We're just like,
Nice.
So I mean, for that alone, and I've seen Iron Maiden a few times before and after that one, but hands down, that was the greatest Iron Maiden show that I've ever attended, just because it was Bruce Dickinson, Adrian Smith's return, and where we were, and it being a small venue. It was tough to pick the best one, but after I thought about it for a few minutes, I was like, that has to be the one. So that's my number 6, Iron Maiden, Hammerstein Ballroom.
Very cool.
All right. So my number 5, and this was, again, kind of a tough one to pick out of 3 big tours that I went to for this band, but I had to go with the final. So my number 5 is Rush, the R40 final tour and their final New York City show. And this was at Madison Square Garden on June 29, 2015. So my first ever Rush show actually was R20, and that was for the Counterparts album and tour. So I still have my tour book and tour T-shirt from those.
Nice.
So, but I went to R20, I went to that Rush show, and then my second Rush show was R30, and then my final would have been that R40 show. And at that show, they played Losing It, which they didn't play at too many shows. I think maybe 4 or 5 shows in total.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of my favorite songs from my favorite Rush album, Signals. So, and obviously now with what's happened in recent weeks, people passing away, and to be 100% honest, I put this list together before Neil Peart's passing, as we talking about doing this.
Yep. We were originally going to do this during the holidays.
Right.
Yep.
So it made the entry even before that happened. So it did have a pretty big significance for me. So that's my number 5, Rush, R40.
I'll add one thing here, and I'll be ready for all the friggin' onslaught of negative comments. I was never a big Rush fan. I just I don't know.
Okay.
I don't deny the talent and all of that, but I've never seen them, and that's one I don't regret. It's weird.
I get it. Not everybody's into Rush. Not everybody's into Geddy Lee's voice. I totally 100% respect it and get it.
Yeah.
I don't agree with everybody on it, but I get it.
Yeah, and I think it's bizarre because you guys know I listen to like the Sex Pistols, where God knows he's not a great singer, but something about Geddy Lee's voice just freaking drove me crazy. I don't know why. I have no idea why, but okay, hey, whatever.
Yeah,
it is what it is. Like I said,
that's
so,
one.
My next one.
Hold on.
What were you gonna say, Ben?
No, I was gonna say that's a list of some regrets of bands I never got to see. Now that's I always say that I wish I would have gotten to see the Who with Entwistle, I lost all my desire really to see the Who, even though Pino Palladino is one of my favorite bass players. But just, I mean, obviously it's not the same without Keith Moon, but then losing Entwistle was like one of my favorite musicians of all time. So I kind of regret not seeing, Rush. I actually went back to my 1984 yearbook, grammar school yearbook, and it said favorite song, and it was Tom Sawyer. So even back then,
oh wow,
remember that?
Yeah. So I just don't know why it never happened. I know some people you never got to see Rush. I was like, no, I just never went. So I regret that. So all those fans out there of all your favorite bands, go see them now, even if it costs you $1 million. You'll regret it later.
Take out a second mortgage and go.
Exactly.
Right.
Sell one of your children or pets at the very least.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, Pete, go ahead.
All right. So my number 4, and this is the following summer after I had seen Heart and Black Crowes with my cousin.
Mm-hmm.
I went and stayed again, and so on July 11th, 1991, we went to see Guns N' Roses with Skid Row opening at the McNichols Arena.
Mm-hmm.
This was on July 11th, 1991, and we got 7th row tickets for this one. And this was
Nice.
thanks to our uncle Nick. got us these tickets. So, and there's a little more background to why I have this one. Obviously, for the significance, the date. This was before the Use Your Illusion albums had been released, so they were already touring, basically pre-release of the albums. They had already gone out on tour, so they still had Izzy Stradlin in the band at this point. And I think this was a few shows after the St. Louis riot show. So it was just after the whole aftermath of all that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was another day where my cousin and I had some time on our hands, and we went waiting on a few lines here and there before we actually went to the show. And we got to meet Rob Affuso from Skid Row. He was doing a signing at a local drum store, so I ended up getting my Slave to the Grind inlay sign. I don't know if you can really see, but just thought it would be fun to bring out some of these items that I.
That's cool. Yeah.
So, still have this Pearl catalog that here it is.
Careful with the mint.
Signed photo from Rob Affuso, and I asked him to sign his favorite kit. Which, again, can't really.
You can see it. Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, decent.
Nice.
So that was before the concert. That was probably about 4 or 5 hours before the show. We went and met Rob Affuso, and we got to hang out on the KBPI bus that was there because they were promoting the event at the music store.
Mm-hmm.
So we told the DJs that we were the guys that had called a year before and told them about the Heart and Black Crowes tickets. And my cousin and I, we would call sometimes in the morning and kind of play like jokes on the DJs, and we would get on the air like idiots, stuff like that. So they treated us real kind.
Mm-hmm.
So at the Guns N' Roses show itself, I still have my Use Your Illusion tour book.
Nice.
And what was also great about that show is, like I said, it was before the Use Your Illusion albums, so they were playing like a whole lot of material from the albums. Izzy Stradlin did, I think, both of his songs, Dust and Bones and 14 Years. I think both of those were in the set. And just one more good memory from this one, and I'll move on. Once they played November Rain, now my brother will recall that we had that Guns N' Roses studio rehearsals tape. And I think this was a rehearsal after Appetite had been recorded, or maybe before. Actually, I think it was before. It was
before. Yep.
Yeah, it was sessions before the albums were recorded, right? So it had November Rain on it. Had a couple of different versions on it.
Yep. So
they start playing November Rain at this concert, and my cousin and I are singing like every single word. And people are looking at us like, how do you guys know this song?
Right.
We're just like, some tape. We thought we were like the coolest guys in the building. So, yeah.
No, I had that tape also, Pete, and I remember. Yeah, I love that version of November Rain.
Too. I have it on my.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
By the way, can I just interject? Is that actually wallpaper in back of you, Pete, or are those real CDs? I mean, I don't think there's quite enough of a collection there. I mean,
yeah, just grab the goddamn Motorhead.
Mike. That's funny. I was going to joke with Pete before that he does the vinyl podcast, but he could also do a CD one apparently as well.
What a mercy. Right.
Probably about equal on the count. Yeah, most likely.
How many CDs do you have altogether, roughly? Do you know?
I haven't counted in a long time, but I'm going to say like around 1,500, including box sets and
Wow.
Yeah.
And then another 1,500 vinyl as well, you're saying, roughly?
Maybe under. I'm not sure. I haven't counted them at all in a long time. Yeah.
So between you and all the CDs on display, Vin, you got your vinyl both behind you and to your left, my right.
Yeah.
He's definitely got more vinyl.
Yeah. And we're probably looking at, 5,000 plus units between the two of you, I would think.
Yeah. I got about 2,200 vinyl.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus. I just download.
Yeah.
That's it. I download.
It's better than buying crack. That's the way I look at it.
That's for sure.
It's a better habit.
Yeah.
That's for sure. All right, Pete, go ahead.
All right, so I'll move on to my number 3. And it's... let me make sure. Oh, yes. Okay, I wanted to make sure I had the right one. So my number 3 is one that I actually attended with my brother, and November 9th, 1990. I found my ticket stub this morning, actually.
I have that on my list. I got to check it.
Kiss at Madison Square Garden, November 9th, 1990, with Slaughter and Winger opening.
Mm-hmm.
And this was my very first Kiss show that I ever attended,
Oh, wow.
and which, as we know, it happened to be Eric Carr's final show. So for personal significance, Eric Carr was one of my drumming heroes growing up. He's one of the reasons why I wanted to play drums. So, and that show altogether was amazing. I remember Slaughter going on and Winger going on and thinking, wow, it's, and this was like only the second show I'd ever been to, and my first Madison Square Garden show. So this was actually my first indoor arena show, because that Heart Black Crowes show was outdoors. So this was actually my first indoor arena show. I remember thinking, wow, it's kind of loud, pretty loud. And then Kiss went on. It was just like, holy shit. And that was, for me, I was, again, like 14 years old, I think. Yeah, I was 14 years old at that time. So,
What was the date on that?
November 9th, 1990.
I didn't have that on my. See, they just I didn't even have that on my list.
Wow.
I did have Kiss. I did have Kiss, Slaughter, and Little Caesar at Nassau Colosseum.
Yeah, that was in June of 1990.
Yeah, so I did have that one, but that's interesting.
Yeah, you and I went to the June show together, and then obviously you went with your brother. It sounds like in November, and I went with Jody.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had nosebleed seats. We didn't have the greatest seats, but still, the sound was very concise. Everything was great, and the Kiss set was great. Eric Carr's drum solo. That was when he had the samples with the "Who Are You" samples within the drum pads. So I got to see that live in my face, which it still feels like yesterday. So it's hard. It was hard for me not to put that show a little bit more closer to the top. I mean, number 3 is obviously pretty close. But when you hear the next 2, I think you'll understand why. So that's my number 3, Kiss, Madison Square Garden, November 9th, 1990, Eric Carr's final show, my first Kiss show ever attended.
Yeah, and I'll just add one thing before you go to your top 2, Pete. To me, having been a Kiss fan at that point myself for like whatever it was, 12, 13, 14 years, that tour was also great that they started bringing back a lot of the 70s songs that we hadn't seen in a long time. So, between opening up with I Stole Your Love, I know they did I Want You, God of Thunder, a lot of songs they had not been doing for years. So that tour did not make my top 10, but yeah, to your point, Pete, that's a great show, and a great tour all around. I love that tour, except for that damn logo they used when it rised. Jesus Christ, how hard is that to get?
Yeah, that was a little weak.
Yeah, that's horrible, but so a little negative mark for that logo, but otherwise it was a perfect show.
They were still using the Sphinx head, right, for that?
Yeah, they used the Sphinx head, and then during the encores, they raised the logo during I Want You, and the K is like all distorted. It looks horrible.
I got to go back and see that. I don't remember that.
They used that K in the Detroit Rock City movie.
Exactly.
So it was used again. Like, you guys got it wrong once.
Yeah.
And you did it again.
Yeah, it's you check out the pictures, Vin. You don't remember it. Check it out. It's a train wreck of a logo.
Okay.
So moving on.
Yeah, let's hear it. Top 2.
My number 2, which again, it's not going to surprise you both in the least. My brother's already talked about it. My number 2, tough to pick one. So I put Kiss 1996 reunion tour, Madison Square Garden, July 25th through July 28th. Since I attended the show. It's hard to label like which one was the better show. They were all great,
They were all great.
One of them in particular was memorable because of the opening band, which you guys probably won't be very familiar with, but in my world at that time, they were big to us. They had Civ opening up for them at one of the shows, and I had no idea that they were even opening up. And Civ was a New York hardcore band, and they had like a buzz clip on MTV called "Can't Wait 1 Minute More." It's something that would end up being played in MSG during the Ranger games in later years. So check it out. You guys may be familiar with it. I walked in and then they jump up on stage and start playing. I'm like, what the? I had no idea what was happening. And then like years later, I end up in a band, like a pop hardcore kind of punky band, and one of the members in the band was one of the members from Civ. So I got to ask him about that whole entire day. And so that's for that significance too.
Nice.
But that entire week, just for me as a Kiss fan, it was just unbelievable to know that I was going to get to see them in the makeup live for the first time after just thinking it would never happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure there were many fans that just never thought they were going to get back together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if there was like a little inkling of hope, but yeah, I mean, just for that significance alone, it has to be my number 2. But I know it's going to surprise you both that a Kiss show isn't my number 1, but again, I think my reason will explain once we get to my
go ahead.
I'm trying to think of what it's going to be.
Yeah, me too.
Well, you won't be really particularly surprised, but I kind of had to. Again, this was another one like with the Kiss week at Madison Square Garden. It was hard for me to say which one or the other, but I'm gonna sort of lump these two together and you'll understand why because of the significance. But my number 1 is Roger Waters' The Wall at Madison Square Garden, November 6, 2010.
Okay.
If you've listened to the I Am Vinyl podcast or you know me personally, you know that The Wall is my absolute number 1 favorite record of all time. So it has a huge personal significance for me. So I got to see that concert and I did manage to get one of the tour books. Got a little beat up during trying to get it out of the arena that night, but I still have it. And I mean, what else can I say? That show was just incredible on a visual standpoint, on a sound standpoint. I mean, you didn't take your eyes off the stage that entire show. I was singing every goddamn word of the show, that entire night. And it's there's no way that it cannot be my number 1 show. And grouped with that, I have to say, also from many more years prior, but in July 18, 1994, I actually found this one. I saw Pink Floyd at Giant Stadium during the Division Bell tour. Pretty decent seats at Giant Stadium for what it was. So, and again, growing up as a big Pink Floyd fan, that was another huge show to get to see. And that was David Gilmour's version of Pink Floyd. So seeing Roger Waters' version of his Pink Floyd and David Gilmour several years earlier before that made it a choice for me to sort of group these two together as my number 1. But the Roger Waters show, hands down, is my number 1 all-time favorite show that I've ever attended.
Yeah, no, look, I can certainly understand that. It's not like you picked like New Kids on the Block or whatever in your number 1 spot.
Right.
Although, after your earlier comment, I almost expected it to be Bon Jovi. Very, very cool. So, Pete, what would you say was the least enjoyable show you've been to, right? I know you've been to hundreds, like you said. So
yeah.
When you
guys brought this up, it was like, wow, this one's actually more difficult to think about. And again, it really kind of isn't. But I have a few quick ones. I'll say one immediate one that came to mind, pretty much immediate upon thinking about it, was the one that the three of us attended not too long ago. Is the New Jersey Kiss Expo and Ace Frehley's attempt to play the '78 solo album.
Okay.
Which was just, I'm not going to blame the band. Obviously, they gave it their all. They gave it all the effort that they could, but the sound was just terrible. As we know, that it was just riddled with problems. So, and that whole weekend in general was great. Obviously the expo and everything itself was great, and the Q&As and things like that. But
yeah.
I think we could all agree the main event was that concert, and to have the sound issues and all just kind of tainted it a little bit. So.
Yeah, I was sitting second row for that show, so I think being up close kind of taints me a little bit. I would never say it was worse. I was far from the best. Also, I agree. The sound went out on one of the guitars, if not multiple guitars, for like a song and a half.
And the vocals.
The vocals. That's right.
We couldn't hear anything. Like at the back, by like the first or second song, it was just like, okay, this is how it's going to be. So.
Right. Yeah, and then I think even Matt Stahl was singing "Wiped Out." And you couldn't even hear a word he was saying.
I couldn't hear a single word. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a big disappointment. And then just really quickly, even though the show itself was incredible and it was a great concert experience overall, I went a couple years, almost 2 years ago, to see the Misfits, and they had their reunion. And one of the earlier shows, and they played in New Jersey at I think it was PNC Bank Art Center, and the sound was just terrible. Maybe it was the seats we had, but for the money we paid and for the overall significance, it was just like, oh man, this is kind of a bummer. But on a visual standpoint, it was great, but just the sound was awful. It's like my brother was talking about that show earlier, the Earth, Wind, and Fire show.
Right.
I had such high anticipations, and I was just like, oh man, this is, I mean, great to have seen it, but yeah, I wish I could have had a better sound experience.
Absolutely.
All right, folks. Well, we run out of time now, and so we'd like to thank you for.
I'll do my own episode of my top 10 shows. That's great. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna get started with my list. It's interesting because it's going to be a big Kiss heavy, no surprise there at all. I think I'm going to have more Kiss shows, maybe even than you did. But starting off with my 10 spot, I actually had a hard time deciding. My first 7 or 8 were pretty much locked in, but my number 10 one, I went back and forth. My first thought to put in number 10 was a Paul McCartney show I saw about 3 years ago, and Vin, I'm not the biggest Beatle fan in the world. In fact, I hate to say it, I think I only own 1 or 2 Beatles albums, like one. Exactly.
Hold on.
But certainly, I know all the songs.
Yeah.
But when I saw Paul McCartney that night, it's the one and only time in my life I could say I felt like I was like in the presence of royalty. So I went back and forth.
Well, because you were.
I was, yeah, no, and it's like I knew he wrote all those songs, and it was amazing. But I was like, just being there. But I'm gonna say that made number 11. And since we're doing top 10. Where I decided to land on my number 10 concert, which is one that Vin, we actually spoke about on our Hall of Fame discussion, is when I saw Ozzy and Motley Crue in January of '84 on the Bark of the Moon tour. So for me, this was the first concert I had been to that wasn't Kiss. Ozzy was the first artist I listened to outside of Kiss. And I was like 7th row from the stage, very excited to be going. Exactly, I got the Ozzy clap going on for that show. But part of why I ended up putting this in my number 10 spot is there were 2 bands that were opening up that night. The first one was a band called Wasted, and I remember hating them, didn't like them at all. The bass player looked like Frankenstein to me that night. I don't know why. He just did. So I figured out, this is the way it is. I like Kiss, I like Ozzy, and all the other rock bands obviously suck because this band I just didn't enjoy, okay? But then next came Motley Crue. And I was did not know a single song of theirs. Like Shout at the Devil had been out for maybe 6 or 8 weeks. I was completely blown away by their performance. And I remember, we were talking about this, I took a camera with me that had like 24 pictures on it, and I wasted 2 or 3 of my pictures, no pun intended, they were wasted. I wasted 2 or 3 of my pictures on Motley Crue because I was like, this band is going to be like the next big thing. This is incredible. And, I went out a week or 2 later, I started buying Shout at the Devil, Too Fast for Love, and I became a Motley Crue fan, for decades after that. But to me, I look at that concert and it kind of opened up the door into a whole different mindset of rock music in the 80s. So that's why I ended up going with that number 10. Ozzy was good, of course. It was with Jakey Lee. But just that whole experience, seeing Motley Crue, seeing Ozzy, to me, number 10, no doubt about it. Number 9 is going to be one of these shows that you guys are both like, okay, yeah, whatever.
Goo Goo Dolls.
Nope. Nope, dolls. But for you, this might be right up there with them. So in 2009, this is not my number 9 show, but in 2009, I went to see No Doubt, which you guys both know. I was a big fan of. At that time, I was taking my daughter, my wife, my daughter, and I were going, and a band called Paramore was opening up. And I didn't know them from a hole in the wall. I downloaded a few songs for my daughter, and it turned out it's her favorite band for the last 10 years. Well, in 2016...
Isn't that debatable? I thought it was My Chemical Romance. Didn't we go back and forth?
She goes back and forth depending on, who's putting out a new album. But Paramore has really been her thing for the last 10 years. And in 2016, I went on their cruise with her. And just a 1-minute backstory about the bands. What I think is cool is they were a bunch of 14-year-old kids that got together and started a band, and they became very popular, headlining Madison Square Garden at one point or whatever. Well, right before this cruise, like a year or 2 beforehand, the guitar player and drummer had left and whatever. Then the bass player left like 3-4 months before the cruise. And it was like this thing where it was only the singer and it was only the guitar player left. And the first show they did on the cruise was just like they were going through the motions. You could just see it was like almost like shell shock. There was like pretty much no band left. The second show was like all this raw emotion. And, we've seen Kiss and we've seen like Van Halen where they go through like the same shtick night after night, rehearse things that they say in between songs. Nothing here was rehearsed. It was like such raw emotion. And it just like left an impression on me that, a concert, it could be real like that. You could really be connecting with fans. I like their music. I'm not the biggest fan in the world, but that concert just left such an impression on me of like, how here it is, this 28, 30-year-old singer could connect with her fans on a real level, and just the emotion of the show for me was absolutely incredible. And I will say, they have a song called Hallelujah, which is their own song, but whenever they perform it, they open up with the Leonard Cohen part of it, and they did that at the beginning of the show. And I know neither of you guys are fans of the band, but if you go check out Paramore's performance of Hallelujah on a cruise ship, windy as hell, and her vocal is, to me, we were talking about Heart before, and I'm never going to say that Heart, Ann Wilson's not like the best singer out there, but this rivals to me the best vocal performance by a female I ever heard in my life. So for me, like I said, you guys are going to be like, okay, yeah, whatever, but that's my number 9. Shockingly, I would not have ever thought that one of their shows would fall into my top 10, but that's my number 9. Number 8.
The setup. What setup was that?
Because I knew you guys would have nothing to say about the show, but I'm serious. Check out their performance of Hallelujah. I think you'll enjoy that. But all right, number 8, my first Kiss entry onto the list. When was this? Let's see. It was September 2017. About 10 days before the show, Gene was doing his solo tour, which, by the way, to me, if we were ranking best tours, that would be very near the top to me. I think Gene's solo tour was amazing.
Yeah, I had them on my list too, but for whatever reason, just didn't. And those were great shows. I agree with you.
They were all great shows, and this particular one, about 10 days before this show, which took place in St. Paul, Minnesota, he announced that Ace Frehley was going to be performing with him. And I remember thinking, damn, it's in St. Paul. That sucks. I'm not going to be able to go to that. And I came home, and my wife was like, there's airplanes. Get on one and go.
This happens all the time in the life of Mike Brunn.
And, this is actually the first thing I think I ever traveled to go to a concert or an event
with
like
the
this.
Suitcase?
With the suitcase, yes, exactly. And, I bought a VIP ticket. And so VIPs were let in first, and I was literally up against the railing and seeing Ace Frehley and Gene Simmons performing together for the first time since, the farewell tour. Like, literally, I had goosebumps. The place was electric that night, and they did Parasite, they did Shock Me, Cold Gin, and Rock and Roll All Night. And it was just, Gene did a show himself first, and doing Charisma and some of those other songs also. But just seeing the two of them on stage, 10 feet away from each other, not knowing if they would ever take the stage again together after that, to me, I was like, this is hands down one of the greatest Kiss experiences to me. And thank you, Jody, for telling me to go fly there and do that. I literally flew in the day of the show, flew out the next day. It was an amazing, amazing show. So for me, that's my number 8 show.
Good one.
Yeah. The next one for me, number 7, brings me back to 1985. And this one might surprise the both of you guys. No, it's not a Kiss show, 1985.
I know what it is.
Yeah, go ahead, guess.
Prince.
Bingo, very good. All right. Very nicely done. Well, because you've heard me talk about this for years.
Yes.
So, first off, just seeing Prince on the Purple Rain tour in and of itself is a great experience. But actually, this concert changed when I go to concerts, my whole approach.
It's the classic ending, like, Brunn moment where we got to stand there and wait. He stares at the stage. Yeah, I'm sailing your thunder.
No, you're 100% right. Yeah. So so there was the Purple Rain tour, and Prince did a great show for it, playing all the hits, a couple of deep cuts also. Well, I should say not deep cuts, unreleased cuts. So I, being the bootlegger, I recorded the show, and he did like Raspberry Beret for only like maybe the 7th or 8th time. It wasn't on an album yet. So but what Vincent's referring to here is the show ends. He always ended every single concert on that tour with Purple Rain. And I was with my mom, one of her friends, and her friend's daughter. And I was 14 at the time. So the lights come on, Purple Rain's done, the show's over. Prince was notorious for, at the end of Purple Rain, there was like a keyboard part. And he was notorious always during that keyboard part while the band was still playing, the lights were off. He'd be in the limo, gone. Okay, that everybody knew that about him. He was always out of the arena before the concert even ended and the lights came on. So the concert ends. My mom and her friend are like, we don't want to fight everybody getting out of here. Let's just sit here and relax and let the crowd leave. So I'm 14 years old. I have no say. My mother says stay. I stay, right? So that's that. So about 15, 20 minutes goes by. The arena is, I'm going to say, 80% empty. And my mom's like, I think it's pretty much ready to
How much time went by?
15 to 20 minutes.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. The stage was, I'll say, being taken down. I don't want to say it was 20%, but they were taking down stuff from the stage, being ripped apart. There's stage hands all over the place. We're getting ready to go, and I'm like, yeah, wow, that looks like Prince up on stage taking apart the stage with them. That's pretty cool that he would do that. Next thing you know, he walks over, he grabs a guitar, and I'm like, oh, what the hell? Next thing you know, he's performing again. Now, mind you, the arena is 80% empty, maybe more. The lights are on for 20 minutes. You could see a sea of people start rushing back into the arena as much as they could. He played the song, if you remember the song America. It wasn't on an album at the time, but he started performing that song.
Was it him alone or with the band?
No, it was with the Revolution. So
okay.
it was like literally the whole band came back up on stage, and he performed like another one song, another 6 to 8 minutes to a 80% empty arena, lights on, stage half taken apart. I quickly fumbled with my Walkman. Start recording again. And to Vin, to your point, to this day, you go to many concerts.
We're looking at the door. You're looking at the stage.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true because it left that impression on me that you would have never. If I would have left as soon as the lights came on, I would have never known that happened that night. It happened so. I guarantee you, most people who were at that show that night had no clue that he ever did that. And seeing Prince in a mostly empty arena, lights on, performing a song on the Purple Rain tour, how could it not make the top of my list here? Top 10. So for me, what was that? That was number 7 on my list. Is the Prince show, Purple Rain tour. All right. Now I'm going to enter the Kiss segment. I already had one Kiss show, but now we're going to go really Kiss heavy for my next few. And I'll say this.
Your next what?
Few, no. These shows almost could have been interchangeable with each other. Like Pete said before, we started putting this list together about a month ago, and I flip-flopped them a couple of times, but I'm going to start off with number 6, Kiss, Madison Square Garden. No, not last year, Vin, sorry. 1979 Dynasty Tour. For me, my first concert ever. I was just about 9 years old at this, and I remember this concert as if it happened yesterday. Right? We've seen the bootlegs from the Dynasty Tour. I remember them coming out from under the stage, each member lit up in their own color, and little 9-year-old me be standing there like, oh my God, my idols. I remember that opening note of King of the Nighttime World as if it was just played 2 seconds ago. Again, I could have probably put this number 1, number 2, number 3. It just left such an impression on me. The band's a little sloppy. I didn't know that at 9 years old. It didn't matter to me. But to me, just seeing my idols, first concert ever, Madison Square Garden, again, that whole entrance, to me, absolutely amazing. So it actually makes me sad, Pete, when I hear your list and your first show was 1990. I'm like, you missed a great time, But people probably say that about me. Oh, your first show was 79. You missed 76 and 77. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm surprised it's not further up on the list, this show. But I guess you have jam-packed top 5 left? Do you have?
I have 5 more left, and believe it or not all of them are Kiss shows, but many of them will be.
But I'm curious.
Almost all of them.
Do you remember what the audience was like, the crowd, the noise, as compared to today? Was it like?
So it was loud, a lot of kids screaming, and it's funny that you mentioned the audience. For whatever reason, the 2 kids right in front of me were teenagers, and it's one of my vivid memories at a concert. After every song, they would try to guess what the next song was.
Right.
And they'd be like, oh, I think it's going to be New York Groove. Oh, I think it's going to be Strutter or whatever. And then 9 times out of 10, I'm sure they both got it wrong because we didn't know set lists or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I remember the crowd being very into it, very young, a lot of kids, some teenagers, but it was a lot of families there. But I remember it being exciting, and at least for me as a 9-year-old, it was very exciting, or almost 9-year-old.
And you were there with your dad?
I was actually there with my whole family, so it's a funny story. I was there with my mom, my dad, my brother.
I didn't know that. I thought it was just you and your dad went to that show.
This is why you don't realize, right? Because my brother was 5 years old at the time, had just turned 5.
Yeah.
My brother, as you know, Vin, and Pete, you might know this, my brother is deaf in one ear, or 99% deaf in one ear. The loud music at the concert was making his ear ring really bad, and it bothered him quite a bit. my mom took my brother and sat in the bathroom with him the whole night at the concert.
Wow.
So he actually was at the concert but didn't see
I
the
guess
concert.
I now that you say that, I remember that, but
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. And then my dad stayed with me at the seat. So that's why you're thinking that.
Now, did he fall asleep at this show? Or was just the Ozzy show he fell asleep?
Just the Ozzy show, he fell asleep. Yeah, so my number 10 show, actually, the one that I mentioned before, my dad took me at, and he literally fell asleep during Ozzy.
Normal.
What? How the hell?
So you're like getting into it. You're like, and then you're looking over and you see the dad like.
Exactly. My dad, I think, made it like 40 minutes into Ozzy, and he just fell asleep. Although I remember my dad about 2 weeks after that show, constantly walking around the house. And I know I'm back on my number 10 show, but my dad was constantly walking around the house going, "Mr. Crowley, Mr. Crowley." That's what my dad kept saying. But yes, my dad did fall asleep, but he stayed awake for Kiss in 1979. So there you have it.
Yeah.
All right, my number 5 show, Vin. This is actually a repeat for you, so I don't have a whole lot to add on top of this. Kiss at the Ritz, 1988. We spoke about it before. An incredible memory to me. That whole day, that whole show. For me also, and Pete, we spoke about this before with the Hot in the Shade tour. That Kiss was doing a lot of the classics.
Yeah.
Well, having been on the Animalized tour, the Asylum tour, the Crazy Nights tour, Kiss really were doing maybe 2 or 3 or 4 at most, classic Kiss songs. Love Gun, Detroit Rock City, Rock and Roll All Night, and the ever so boring Cold Gin, right?
Why do you have to plug that every podcast you do?
I have to make sure I throw it in, Vin, just for you. So those are the 4 staples.
Yeah.
And then that Rich show, they did, Strutter, I Was Made for Loving You. You mentioned before, Deuce, Shout It Out Loud. So besides the whole experience and everything you said before, for me, that set list, and you'll see that recurring theme start to come up on these next couple of shows. But that set list to me set the stage for Hot in the Shade. And to me, it was the first time I was hearing some of those classic songs live. And what a great show. It's another one that could have been up higher on I forgot, Vin, you put it what, like number 3?
Yeah,
something like that, right? Yeah. So sorry, you can put those in front of you.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So whatever. I could have put it like I said.
It was in my top 5, that's for sure.
Yeah. These Kiss shows almost become interchangeable with each other because they're all, to me, incredible shows. But I put it number 5 on my list right now. So, all right, number 4, Vin. I'm sorry. I'm going to do it to you. You know where I'm going.
Oh, boy. I know what it is.
You know where I'm going with this.
Does it start with an S?
S?
No?
Oh.
All right.
It's probably worse than that.
Worse than that.
Worse than that. So I invited you, Vin, to a show 2.5 years ago, and you decided it was too much money.
Yeah. That was before I was a multimillionaire, by the way.
That was before you were a multimillionaire,
Yeah.
Exactly, right. So you passed on it.
Yeah.
The original Kiss members, Ace Frehley, Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Peter Criss. Peter Criss was my least favorite. No disrespect to him, but his catalog of songs was nothing spectacular. But in June of 2017, he announced he was going to do a show, his supposed final show, at the Cutting Room in New York City. And the tickets were like $250. I think you got a meal, it was a concert, and I went to this. I was literally sitting right up front, and what a friggin' incredible night. I'm sorry, Vin. I hate talking about this in front of you.
Just the fact that I could have heard You Matter to Me live, like that just breaks my heart. That synthesizer, I just like, what was I thinking?
And, one of my favorite Peter Criss songs of all time is I Can't Stop the Rain. And he walked out, like the band was up on stage. He walked out from a side door on the side of the stage trying to sing the song. He was, overcome with emotion. He butchered the whole first verse, started singing the chorus during the verse. It was a train wreck, but it didn't matter. It was still but from that moment on, the show was just incredible. And Vin, Pete, I don't know if you've ever watched some of the videos online, but he also had like a couple of guys, little horn section. And I remember thinking, that's going to be cheap. I'm not going to like that. The version they did of Strutter that night that had horns going in it was everything to me like the Kiss Symphony was supposed to be, but wasn't. The version of Strutter that night, I still hear it in my head. Probably my favorite live version of the song. And I love that song. Was just incredible. And with the horns, it's just like, wow, they really freaking nailed this. Peter was overcome with emotion the whole show. After every song, the whole crowd, which was a couple hundred people only, Peter, What a friggin' incredible night. Vin, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to throw salt in the wound here, but
yeah,
incredible night.
I remember thinking at the time, because just so people understand and don't think I'm a total lunatic, rewinded. I don't know if it was a couple of months before. I don't remember. You're better with me at dates. We did the bus tour with Peter Criss, where
Yes.
we went to 10 different.
It was the week before.
It was a week before. We went to 10 different, what would you call it? Landmark places. We went down into Electric Ladyland, which we were only going to stand outside, but they let us in, and we went down there, and Peter got all overwhelmed with emotion. So I remember thinking, all right, then we ended in front of Madison Square Garden. There's Peter, and you and I at side to side with him, arm around him, and we're singing Beth with the whole crowd. So I remember thinking at the time, it's never going to get better than this. This is like my idol, my childhood idol. I'm good. And I remember that was my excuse, other than it's $250. I don't know if I want to spend that, which, But yeah, so that was kind of my reasoning, thinking I had my, I was good there. But yeah, I certainly do regret it.
Yeah, no, and I remember you talking about that whole Peter Criss experience, and nothing can top it. I 100% I remember you talking about that. I think the only knock I could ever say about that Peter show was that he did Hard Luck Woman that night also. And the band that he was playing with, Sister Dolls, apparently the drummer always wanted to sing that song. And Peter let him sing the whole thing. And I'm just like, Pete, no, you got to take a verse here at least.
Right.
So
I remember you saying that.
I wouldn't have minded if the other guy sang the first verse and then Peter sang the second one, but it's like, it's the last time I've seen Peter Criss perform. He let the other guy, the kid, I'll say, play drums, and the band was incredible. Great support band for Peter.
Were they from Australia or something?
Yeah, they're from Australia. Yeah. They played a little opening set themselves, like for 20 minutes, and their set was it's classic like 80s type of hair metal type rock, but it was good. They were very good. But that would be my only knock, because I wish Peter sang one verse of that song. Last time I've seen him ever, but still, absolutely great show. Absolutely. So, all right, I'm going to move to number 3 then on my list. So again, I'm going to stay with Kiss. I said before about set list, and now here it goes. All right, so go back to 2015 on the Kiss Cruise.
There we go.
Here we go.
Shows that we, mere mortals couldn't attend.
So 2015, they had announced that the theme of that year was going to be Kiss Alive. Now for me, I was like, all right, well, that's cool. They did it, the indoor show in the theater. They recreated the whole Kiss Alive, thing, which was cool. But I go on the Kiss Cruise to see deep cuts. Right? That's what I was always excited about. So for me, I was like, an indoor show, Kiss Alive. I'm like, all right, I've only seen them do Rock Bottom once. Besides that, there's no deep cuts. Well, that year they decided also the Sail Away show, which they usually do acoustic, they would do it electric that year. So I was like, all right, well, that mixes it up a little bit. Hopefully they'll pull out a couple of deep cuts for the electric show. Let me read the set list. This is now, remember, this is an electric show. Every one of these songs are fully rehearsed. They're not like little snippets. Right? This is like full-on, full concert. Here's the set list. Flaming Youth. So it's the first time they played that from 76. Right? I know they added it on tour after that, but it's the first time they had ever played it. So right off the top, I'm like, hello, I'm enjoying this already. I Stole Your Love. Ladies' Room. It was the first time they played that since 78. Coming Home. And I love that song. Again, we've heard it acoustic 1,000 times. Full electric performance. Plasticaster. Mainline. Take Me. A World Without Heroes. Right, then they did Shock Me, whatever, who cares? Lover, Lover All I Can. Strange Ways. Mr. Speed. Going Blind. All the Way. Christine 16. Making Love. Hide Your Heart. And Shout It Out Loud.
It's impressive.
Those last 2 songs, whatever. But come on, Going Blind, Electric, Mr. Speed, full on, full performance. I'm not talking about like a verse and a chorus and then stop. Fully rehearsed, Strange Ways. How can you top that damn set list? That's friggin' amazing set list.
Well, obviously you can, because you have 2 more. Don't you have 2 more shows in front of you?
I do have 2 more shows, but I think in terms of set lists, I actually contemplated at one point putting this number 1, because it was like, how do you top that set list? It's just, to me, hands down amazing. And I remember so many people complaining the months before the cruise. Oh, it's Kiss Alive. We know all those songs. We see those songs all the time. We go and cruise for deep cuts. And then they pull out a set list like that. And it's just like absolutely blew me away. Flawed, amazing. Potentially, I could have put that in, like I said, in the number one spot. These Kiss shows are interchangeable, but that to me, amazing, amazing show. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Loved it. Loved it.
No, that would have been a good one to go to for sure.
Yeah, no, that's thoroughly excited after that show.
And what's interesting is that they rehearse those songs. You know, they learn it for the cruise, but then 90% of those songs they don't play again for following shows. It's like
I agree.
And, yeah. Got it.
No, I was gonna say, they added Flamin' Youth to the set for the tour after that. But I used to be like, all right, take that out one night and do Mr. Speed instead, and take Mr. Speed out and then do Coming Home one night. Yeah. Chances are the casual fan is not going to know Flamin' Youth any more than they know some of those other songs. But it was an incredible show. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. It's probably not as exciting to see it on YouTube as it was being there. Oh. I was literally up against the barricade right there.
You? They should just call you Barricade Brun.
Barricade Brun. Oh, that's right. I stood outside, I think, for like 6 hours waiting for that show to begin, and it did not disappoint in any shape, matter, or form.
Just a very quick story about you and the Barricade. The reason why I made this reference. So we went on the cruise together, this last cruise, and I had the privilege of hanging out with your daughter most of the time, because we'd be like, all right, he's a lunatic. He wants to be there like 85 hours beforehand, and so you would go, and he's classic. It's like a surveyor, of like surveying land. He's looking all around. He's looking at the logistics. He's kind of like, if you ever see the movie Step Brothers, where he's like measuring the distance between the symbols. He's kind of trying to figure out where he's going to be, plots, then he gets his spot. So myself and his daughter are just watching this, and just like, look at him. Look at him. Look at what he's doing. And we're just making all these comments. So at one point he gets a spot up against the barricade, and he sees us laughing at him, and he just looks at us both and goes like this. and I snapped a picture right before. I have the picture of you looking over, but it was right before you gave me the finger. But it was
that's right.
One of those classic moments.
Right. Look. I go to these cruises for those moments and for these shows, and Vin, I think you put number 10, the Bruce Show, on your list, understandably so. For me, these Kiss shows
by the barricade.
Yep, which we were barricade exactly.
Yeah.
So to me, the Kiss shows is why I go on the cruise, which I guess will take me to my number 2 show, and I'll stay with the Kiss cruise theme here. So in 2012, I went on my first Kiss cruise, and that particular year, as you guys remember, they released Monster, which I love that album, by the way. I think that to me is like their best album since at least Lick It Up, maybe even since Rock and Roll Over. But
can we debate that one?
What was that?
We said that. So can we debate that one?
We can send a whole nother show on that one. Okay. So, but in 2012, when I went on the cruise, I was going, like I said, for deep cuts, and they did like 5-6 songs from Monster and no deep cuts at all. So in 2012, I left, and I was disappointed. And I was like, now I look back on that show, and I'm like, thank God I was there, because I'll never see them perform those songs live again, and I love some of those songs that they did. But fast forward to the next year, 2013, and I'm like, all right, I'm going on the Kiss cruise again. I better get a friggin' show with deep cuts this time.
What, are you going to sue the band?
Yeah, I'm going to throw
show up with your lawyer just in case.
I'm going to throw Doc McGee overboard, and the wig's just going to float in the water. So like that,
Normal.
So 2013, my second Kiss cruise, and this particular year I was going to the show the second night. So the first night, Vin, you know this, you were able to watch it in the atrium, and the show is basically the same night number 1 to night number 2. And this particular year, middle of the show, Paul Stanley starts saying, all right, we're going to do a song from an album here that, none of the guys off this boat really ever bought this album. It's only the diehards bought this album. And I'm like, no, this can't be. This can't be. He's like, so for the 2,000 people who bought this album, we're going to do something off the Elder. I'm like, no freaking way. So I'm thinking, all right, here comes A World Without Heroes. Yeah, that's what they always play acoustic. And then he doesn't say anything else, and they just start doing the guitar riff from The Oath. And the place went friggin' nuts. People, literally dropping to their knees, bowing down to the screen that we were watching it on. The boat was just, man, it was absolutely crazy. So the very next night now, I've got tickets to the show, and I'm like, well, they better freaking do this. And they did. And, again, I'll just read off the set list from this particular night. They opened up this night with Lover All I Can. They opened up with Lover All I Can. Right, so right off the top, that's great. Ladies in Waiting. They did Shout Out Loud, and Anything for My Baby, Almost Human, Hella Hallelujah, The Oath, right? So incredible, absolutely incredible. That particular night, they also played Hide Your Heart, which for us, maybe not a big deal, but it was actually the first time they played Hide Your Heart since 1990. The night before, they had done Love Gun, which I was like, I'm on a cruise. I need to see Love Gun. So when they replaced it the following night with Hide Your Heart, I was actually excited that night. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I haven't heard this song in 25 years. After that, they did Mainline, Let Me Know, and then, of course, the Encore's Black Diamond, Detroit Rock City, Rock and Roll All Night. Again, I go on these cruises for the set list. The Oath, I still get chills when I watch that clip. I've never felt like that at a concert ever in my life. Then you mix in Mainline, you mix in Let Me Know, Anything for My Baby, Love Her All I Can, Ladies in Waiting. I'm like, this is what a cruise is all about. So for me, it was the first time I'd been on a Kiss cruise where they did all these deep cuts, and I loved every moment of it. So, that's 3 out of my top 9 concerts are 6-man events. And I just say this, 6-man gets it right with these cruises, no matter what band it is. If you're into these kind of bands and they're doing a cruise, go. It's an absolutely amazing time. So
and on the
that's
heels,
my number 2.
And on the heels of what you're saying, you talk about chills and whatnot. I didn't have this I did mention it, but I didn't have it as my top 10. But you talk about like one, and maybe it's a fresh moment because it was just last year.
Yep.
But on the cruise, the indoor show, when they did Strutter, again, for people who have seen Kiss and you see them at the big arenas, I can't, say it any more than what the sound inside that room. Now, as they're not doing it this year, but the sound that they get in a 1,000-seat, theater, without the bombs, without the, all the fancy crap that's going on, fire, just the tightness and hearing Strutter at the right tempo and everything, and the vocals, everything just sounding great, is one of those things, like when I just heard that, I just could not believe, like, how good, the band sounded. And it was just one of those moments that, you got your money's worth with just one song. That's
Absolutely.
how I felt. But...
No, and I'm glad you bring that up, Vin, because to me, you can't discount that. So, right, I'm saying that in that auditorium or whatever you want to call it, the sound is incredible. And hearing The Oath being played live.
Yeah, it must have been awesome.
It was, and you could tell the band didn't know. I don't know how they cannot know this, Jesus Christ, but the band wasn't even sure if it was going to go over well with the fans or not, which just shows you how disconnected they are. It's ridiculous.
You'll still hear, mostly Paul talk about The Elder, and Carnival of Souls is like one of those, things that it's like, forbidden fruit, it's like, it's just, but do more of the diehard fans love those records? They do. And do diehard fans go on these cruises? Yeah, they do. So that's why I think you're going to get an appreciation for something like
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, no, it dumbfounds me how they don't recognize that. Paul was almost like, I don't want to say apologetic introducing the song, but you could see he was like hesitant, like, hey, is this going to go over? Is this going to go over? And I credit, Tommy and Eric were probably the ones that pushed for that. And I credit them 100% because it's a moment unlike one I will probably have at a concert ever again in my life. Even a few years later, they did and it was a great experience. And they closed actually the show with But just hearing that opening riff of The Oath, and I was like, holy shit, they're playing something from The Elder. I can't believe it. Hands down, maybe my single individual favorite concert moment ever. Just that like 3-minute portion right over there. But that's my number 2 concert.
Drum roll. Here it comes.
Number 1. So I just said I went Kiss heavy. You ready for this? Pete, like you, Kiss is not my number 1 concert.
Wow.
All right. So actually, of the 3 of us, Vin, you were the only one that put a Kiss concert at number 1.
I did it right.
You did it right. You did it right. So the ironic part was we spoke about the reunion tour in '96, right? The Kiss reunion tour. And I had that on my short list at first. In fact, I even had the show on my top 10, and then I eventually took it off. But for me, a few weeks later, I went to another concert.
Here we go.
Another reunion tour in '96. Okay.
I'm trying to think who this is.
You don't know?
Oh, let's see.
Yes. Okay, so growing up in the 80s as a teenager, I was into the hair metal, the hard rock at that time. I was also into the punk rock scene in the 70s, the Ramones and Vin,
The Sex Pistols.
the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the 70s, I never saw the Sex Pistols. I think they played like 8 shows in the United States before they broke up. 96, they announced a reunion tour. And, you know, it's not Sid Vicious. It's even better. It's the original bass player, right?
Why, you couldn't make it?
He couldn't make it.
Really make
He was a little tied up that day.
Yeah.
So,
it. It's
on
kind
the
of
heel, what was that?
It's kind of stiff.
Yeah.
Little stiff.
Put a ch.
Uh, so, having just gone to see Kiss 4 nights at the Garden, I was going to see Sex Pistols at the Roseland Ballroom like 3 weeks later. And I had like zero expectation because to me, I heard those bootlegs from the 70s. They were not the greatest live bands. So I had zero expectation. I get in the Roseland Ballroom and I'm 3/4 of the way back maybe. And waiting for the band to come on. And then they come on and they open up with Bodies from the Nevermind the Bollocks album. And the energy in this room was unlike anything I have ever seen before. Since I know I just spoke about like the Oath and all of that. This was that, I'll say, magnified by 5. I just never experienced it. And it went like this, not just for one song, the entire 65 minutes that they performed. And it was it was nuts. It was crazy. Vin, I love that album. The band was incredibly tight. Johnny Rotten, Johnny Lydon, whatever you want to call him, sounded incredible. And I just left that show saying, holy crap, that, blew away my expectations. To this day, I wish I could go back and live that hour again because it was just hands down for me the most incredible show. I probably didn't see the band a hell of a lot, to be honest with you, because I was all the way back. The energy, people jumping up and down all night. And, Vin, usually I'm like taking in the concert. You had no choice but to freaking join in with these people because if you didn't, you'd be trampled, okay? So I'm in the crowd. We're all jumping and just having like the freaking greatest time. And it was absolutely, hands down, amazing. So for me, I know it's a shocker. Kiss is not my number one concert, but that Sex Pistols show, Roseland Ballroom, August of 96, I don't know if anything could ever top that. That whole experience to me was phenomenal. It was great. Number one show for me.
So I got to interject here.
Go. I've been waiting. You politely waited for me to shut up.
Yeah. So I know this is experience, and I gave my reason why some of my shows was more of the experience. From a musical standpoint, if you just take the music part, not how the crowd was, just as a musical performance, would you still make that your top number one over the other shows that you previously mentioned?
So it's fun. It's hard to say musically because I go for the whole experience, right? So look, if I look at it objectively, some of these Kiss shows I spoke about, Paul's
and the love that you have for those songs.
Right, exactly. But Paul, if I look at it objectively, Paul's voice the last 10 years is not his A+ voice. Right. So if I say musically, I'd probably rule out half the shows I just talked about, right? Mm-hmm. For me, that Sex Pistols show, they sounded better live that night than they ever did in the 70s. And I'll say maybe better than the album versions. That they were just so tight. They were so on. I have to think it has something to do with Glenn Matlock coming back as opposed to having that, god-awful Sid Vicious that didn't even know how to play bass, Yeah. They were locked in tight. He sounded, look, he's not a great singer, but he sounded great. It just, musically, I can't knock it at all. It's the sound in there that night was phenomenal also. I can't say anything bad about that show at all, other than I wish they would have done like 4 or 5 more songs from like maybe the Swindle album or something like that. But that's being nitpicky. But it was phenomenal. Oh. So sorry, I know you probably wanted me to say it was a train wreck musically, but it wasn't.
No. I had previously known how much you put, how high you put the show in your all-time favorite concerts and that. Doesn't totally surprise me it's number one, but if anyone knows you and knowing your history as far as with Kiss, I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, which is cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
go ahead, Pete. What were you going to say?
It did actually, it didn't really, when he started to talk about it, that's how it makes perfect sense. As you guys know, I got into the Sex Pistols thanks to you guys, because Mike got my brother to buy the Nevermind the Bollocks album, and I actually inherited that copy.
I gave it to him recently. I was like,
yeah.
I think I literally said that. I was like, Then I wound up buying another one anyways, soon thereafter, because I was like,
it's not surprising, and I think it's great that you have that as your number one choice. So is that the first and only, like, you could say, punk show that you'd ever gone to where you had the crowd going nuts and moshing and crowd surfing and dancing and all?
Well, so in terms of at that point in my life, yes, I'd been to a few other shows like that afterwards. But yeah, I mean, Pete, that's a great point. Before that, it was more so, the 80s hair metal scene and Kiss shows and things like that. So absolutely, that's a great point. It probably played a part into it.
Because I figured for that alone, you had to just be like, holy shit, this is what one of these shows are like? You know?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And, again, I had been a Sex Pistols fan at that point for like 10, 15 years and never thought I'd even have the chance to see them, So, yeah, that I never thought about that, Pete. That's actually a great point of view, is that, that probably that concert experience, maybe seeing Kiss at the Ritz in '88 and the energy in that room and the back and forth pushing.
Right.
But this was, the Sex Pistols thing was so controlled, whereas the Kiss thing, everybody was pushing all around. Everybody at the Sex Pistols show was like in their one spot, jumping, having a great time. It was awesome. It was absolutely awesome.
I can believe it.
Yeah. So there you have it. My number one show. Right. So you guys spoke about your worst shows ever. I'll talk about mine for a moment. Okay. You ready for this?
I have two
of them. Take a guess.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Pete.
All right, well, Vin, I mean, I'll take a wild guess because maybe you guys attended one show at some point before it all went, haywire. But did you ever attend the Quiet Riot show and Come On Feel the Noise, and Mike's favorite way of Kevin Dubrow saying Come On Feel the Noise?
No, I did not actually. So no, that's a good guess though.
Was that at the US Festival that he did that?
Yes.
Come on, feel the noise.
Come on, feel the noise.
Yes. You know what? Had I seen them back then, that might have made it, because that aggravated the crap out of me. You're right. Come on, feel the noise. What the heck? That's freaking horrible.
I mention that one in there.
No, that's a great call out. I actually have two shows that I would consider the worst shows I've been to. I'll say this one first. So I just came off the heels of my number one show, was the Sex Pistols, 1996. Perhaps one of the worst shows of my life.
I know which one. It's good.
Which one?
Was Zebra? Was that the one with the Zebra show?
Okay, so I'll go to that one first. Yes. Okay. So this was Zebra, Warrant, and Ace Frehley, 2012, out here on Long Island. And for me, so I was going to see Ace Frehley, right? No surprise. First, Warrant. There's a whole like 8 hours. There was other like lesser known bands even than those that I just mentioned that were on. So I got there. Warrant was just coming on stage. It was the first time I saw them without Janie Lane, and I was like, no, this is all wrong. This is a cover band. Okay, fine, whatever. Next, Jesus, Zebra. Holy crap! Oh my God, that freaking guy, Randy Jackson. His freaking voice. Oh my God, freaking. Outside arena ripped through my skull. It was horrible. I literally I was there with my wife. I said, Joe, we've got to go behind the concession stand somewhere. I need a buffer between me and the sounds. It was horrible.
It was good, right?
Oh God, that is hands down single, that Zebra show. If I'm going to say the worst concert, that was hands down. That hour that they were on stage was one of the worst hours of my life. It was pure torture. I hated it. So you had Warrant with the fake singer, whoever it was, Zebra, the friggin' train wreck, and then Ace comes on. He's the headliner, and they have to cut his show in half because all the other bands play too long. And it was just like, this show sucks. So that to me, without it, and you knew, Vin, I've spoken about that Zebra show, but there was nothing about that night. The Aces band sounded good, but it was literally 4 songs into the set, and they're like, all right, we're going to jump to the encores now because they're telling us we have 15 minutes left. I'm like, what? I just fucking sat through Zebra.
I just had head trauma from Zebra.
Exactly. So that was hands down. It's 2012, the worst probably show, Zebra show. But I also have to give an honorable mention to in 2003. So I said my number one show was Sex Pistols 96. In 2003, I went to see the Sex Pistols again. This time was Jones Beach. Okay. And everything that was so great about that 96 show, was so wrong about this 2003
This makes
show.
me feel so much better now.
First off, the Sex Pistols at the beach just don't go hand in hand.
Yeah.
In and of itself, And this was at Jones Beach, 15,000 people there. I swear 2/3 of the people were there just because they'd heard the name Sex Pistols and they probably got free tickets or whatever. People just stood there like, okay, play Anarchy in the UK, let's go home.
Wow.
It was friggin' horrible. Horrible. I remember thinking, Jesus, thank God I saw them in 96, because if this is the only time I'd seen them, I would have been so tremendously disappointed. So it's funny, in one way, Sex Pistols' #1 concert and #1 worst concert ever. So the only other thing I'm going to say, and then we could close, when I was putting together my list, and Pete, I like what you did, like where you said this block of shows or whatever, and you had like festivals. Yeah, so if I was to look back at the Kiss Cruise 2018, the opening night of that cruise is probably not just one concert, but the whole like event of that day is probably going to be hard to top ever in music for me, right? So that night, Kiss performed acoustic to start the cruise. That's the year they brought out Bruce Kulick and Ace Frehley, right? So they performed. I'm barricade boy, right? So I'm right up against the barricade. Seeing them reunite with Bruce for the first time since '95, and then reunite with Ace Frehley for the first time since the farewell tour. Right there, I'm like, this is awesome, awesome, awesome experience. They follow that up. Ace Frehley does a set on his own, and he's doing songs like Save Your Love, and Two Sides of the Coin, things like that. So he did a great deep cuts show himself. Follow that up with the first Bruce Kulick show of the cruise as well. So it was from like 7 o'clock at night to like midnight. It was Kiss, then Ace doing deep cuts, and then Bruce doing his classic deep cuts type of set also. As a whole day of music, to me, it's going to be hard to ever top that. But any one of those individual concerts didn't make my top 10, but that day, #1 day in music for me ever. So there you have it.
Oh, cool.
All righty.
And what's interesting about that is that you would think the order would have been in reverse. Like Bruce would have went first, then Ace, and then Kiss. If you do it like a traditional, like,
right.
They're the headliners. But I guess this was outdoors.
This
right?
is all three of them were on the pool deck.
Right. So were they doing it because, you kind of get the day into the sunset type of thing? They want to capture that kind of thing? Do you think
I think what it came down to is, Kiss always did the sail away show as we were pulling out of the port.
Yeah.
So they did their acoustic show, sail away, just like they always did. And then it was a matter of Ace going on, and then Bruce. And Bruce didn't go on till, like, I think 11:30 at night or something like that. So my guess is, with no disrespect to Bruce, they felt Ace was the bigger draw. And by 11:30 at night, they might not have as many people there, so put Bruce on last. I can tell you the pool deck was packed, though. It didn't matter who went on first, second, third.
Those Kiss cruises doesn't matter if they're doing it. If they did it 3 a.m, people would be out there. It really doesn't matter.
Absolutely. So that was probably my best day ever. But none of those individual concerts ranked in my top 10. So there you have it. Each of our top 10 lists. It'll be interesting to see some of the comments from other people and what some of their top 10 lists are. Pete, when's your next show, and who is it? Is it a band I heard of? Do you know what your next show is?
Next episode of the podcast?
No, your next concert that you're going to.
Actually, no, I don't have anything upcoming on the schedule at the moment.
Wow, okay. Vin, probably you don't either, right? Okay. All right. So
I think I'm performing this Friday. I think that's my next show. I don't have anything right now. Yeah, I don't think I have anything lined up.
Okay. And then, Pete, when are you doing your next podcast?
I'm actually going to be putting together, right now we currently have the KISS Roundtable Discussion Part 2 is out right now. And I'm going to be, in about a week or so, I'm going to be working on my Rush and Neil Peart tribute episode following Neil Peart's passing. It was not planned, but I decided to skip my next show idea in favor of doing a tribute show.
Nice.
But I actually just remembered I am going to be attending a concert on April 5th.
What's that?
It's a newer band. I'm going to be going to see a band called Haunt at the Knitting Factory here in Brooklyn.
Oh, nice.
You guys might want to check them out. They're very like 80s Ozzy, Dokken, Iron Maiden, a little bit of early thrash metal. Really good band.
Cool. And I'll have to maybe give that a listen. Go ahead, Vin. What were you going to say?
And I'm hoping, and I know you've mentioned this before, and I appreciate it. I play with the Motley Crue tribute band.
Yeah.
Wildside. We're hoping to, hopefully, for those New York, New Jersey metro area people, that we're going to be playing the Paramount in June.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Which is a nice venue. So It's tentative right now. I don't know. I think maybe opening for Use Your Illusion, which is a Guns N' Roses tribute band. So I'm hoping that kind of works itself out. That'd be cool.
Yeah, you'll have to let me know because obviously my daughter works there also.
I
So
do.
I'll
That's why, and another reason why I mentioned it.
Yeah, there you go. So and
Yeah.
it's like 15 minutes from my house. So if you're doing that, definitely let me know.
We'll do.
Awesome. Well, all right, guys. I think that pretty much wraps up our top 10 concerts between us. It was very interesting, Pete. I loved your list. I'm gonna have to check out, I think, some of those bands that I quite honestly don't listen to. And and Vin, I think it was cool to kind of reminisce, and you reminded me about some of my teenage concerts that maybe I don't think about on a regular basis. So that was really cool.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, no, thank you guys both for coming on, and that's it, everybody. Go over to my Facebook page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. Go check that out. Every day we're talking about the rock and roll music that you love. Hit that subscribe button on my YouTube channel over there. And again, Pete, Vin, thanks a lot for joining me today. Take it easy, everybody.
Take care.
Thanks.
Alrighty, there you have it. Each of our top 10 concert lists from our lifetime. Like I said at the start of the video, combined we've attended over 600 concerts, so putting these lists together were not as easy as one would think. I'd love to hear your feedback and your comments about what was some of your favorite concerts you've been to in your lifetime. It was also sad to actually realize that for two of us, one of the most disappointing concerts we've been to was an Ace Frehley show. But in any case, hit that subscribe button right here on my YouTube channel to catch any of my other videos that I'll be posting. And also, head over to my Facebook page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. Until next time, thanks for watching.